we are really, really fortunate to have been blessed by brands that are very, very powerful and strong. So, really, if you work in a large company, you're standing on the shoulders of giants. So, we've all inherited very strong heritage brands. You have Maggie, you have Kit Kat, you have Nescafe. And we are creating a strong suite of brands that hopefully 30 to 50 years later, another brand marketing leader will stand up and say, I've inherited great brands. So whenever we do marketing at Nestle, whenever we run our business, we always have a long-term view. We are not thinking of short-term gains and running away. We've been in India for 180 years now. So when the lockdown happened, as I said, we were fortunate. People were already looking for our brands. And people were stockpiling and they were saying, if I'm buying 2, let me buy 10. God knows what's going to happen next. So it's always a blessing. So by March, we ran out of stock very, very quickly. And I think for more than 3 weeks, we were not able to produce more stock. The biggest call that a market head took was not to lay off anybody. Not a single person has been laid off. As in the Maggie crisis, not a single person was laid off. Not a single person quit the company. Same here this time, all increments were given. Nobody was laid off. And then we began this journey, as I was telling you, about producing the product and getting it to the market. And of course, we prioritized channels that were still working. We prioritized customers who were still taking stock and who were operational. We probably at some point had to ration out Maggie and say, only so many cases to this location. But really, I think we took a call for lives and livelihoods together. So the answer was an and, because we could not shut shop. We had to continue work. And overnight in our factories, sanitization measures were done. We anyway have world-class factories when it comes to hygiene, cleanliness, because we make food at the end of the day, and none of our products were hand-touched anyway. But we just had to be extra careful because workers are coming in from outside. So even more stringent hygiene, even more stringent sanitation, constant hand washing, and all that was taken into account and activated on. And I think now we are sitting in July, we are being able to supply product. The other thing that we did was that, we have a 24/7 consumer engagement services. So there was a period of time when there was no stock, right? Now, how do you handle that? That's where marketing and consumer services comes in. You have to constantly speak to consumers. So I'll give you some statistics here. We get about 500,000 contacts from consumers a year in our consumer response center. Our contacts more than doubled in the last 3 months. So let's say we get an average of, 2,000 mentions a week on social media. We are clocking 6,000 on social media. And earlier, availability queries were, 2% of our total volumes. Hey, I'm looking for this flavor. It's not available in Bandra. Where can I find it? Our availability queries went up to double digits, high double digits. And that's where our consumer engagement center got into action. So first, our consumer engagement center had to shut, right? Because we had Concentrix as our partner. And so we had an offsite where about 60 people sit and man our calls, man our emails, man our social media. Everybody was moved to work from home within 1 week. Everybody, taxis were hired. Everybody took their desktops, wires, files, everything into a taxi and just rushed home and set up there. And within a week, our consumer engagement service was functioning from home. Not a single call was dropped. And then they got into the act of assuaging consumers when availability calls came in. No, it's reaching you there. Our escalation things continued. I found, this pack was expired or so on and so forth. And so we continued to handle those queries. Of course, we could not go and physically pick up the packs, but we continued to handle it. And I think in the lockdown, this is what happens. So you take the power of brands that you have inherited from giants who created it. But oftentimes, when crisis hits, your only job is to maintain the equity and to not let it erode. And I think that's what we did. So then the second thing that the consumer engagement service did, and our vision really has been to not be a complaint center, but really a center that enhances trust, builds engagement. So by addressing availability queries with empathy and in real time, that even in a lockdown, there are Nestlé people taking my calls and telling me, don't worry, we will get the stock to you, right? And so that's building trust. But then what do we do about engagement? Because we don't really want to advertise at full blast when stock is not there. We started UGC campaigns. So I think in about 2 months, we've done 8 UGC campaigns. And the joy of having multiple brands, what happens is one brand comes up with an idea. So in our company, Milkmaid came up with the idea, we will do UGC. And we will start asking people to send their recipes and desserts. And in fact, there is a story there also. So let me dial back on how lockdown is happening. We are trying to maintain trust, availability. Yes, in the back end, we have 3-4 superheroes who are trying to get logistics going, production going, sales going. Then we have a social listening team, which is a combination of media and a consumer engagement services. They started listening to data. 900% increase in immunity queries. 230% increase in what shall I cook today. We are anyway a nation that consumes lots of recipes online. And I think I don't remember the number, but huge increase in what do I do? I'm getting bored. So we connected the dots and we said, let's try and start engaging kids in cooking. And we have brands that stand for it. Milkmaid stands for creating sweet stories with children because it's easier for children to cook desserts. So if you remember, in school, the first thing, there was a textbook that said, go cook rice kheer at home because it's safe. There is no fire involved, right? So we started this UGC campaign with Milkmaid of getting recipes in and getting people to start cooking. It shot through the roof. And then all other brands jumped in and we ran 7 more UGC campaigns run through our consumer engagement service. So yes, it became an engagement service. Then what happened? The other search query that came out, and from our human experience also we realized there is no access to OPD. So mothers are struggling. My child is coughing. What do I do? Is he eating right? He's sitting at home. Fine, I will make him cook and get him out of his boredom. But am I feeding him right? Where is my access to doctors and experts? So we have this corporate brand called Ask Nestlé. We had started it a year ago, and it's a service brand. So it's India's first food tech brand and also India's first service brand, which is launched by a company. It's purely digital. So we said, fine, people are getting bored. They don't have access to doctors and nutritionists. They don't know what to feed their kids, and they are swimming in this morass of conflicting, confusing information on WhatsApp groups and Google search. We anyway are the expert authorities. So all our content is written by doctors, nutritionists, vetted by a scientific community. So we created a campaign about limited pantry recipes. You have 3 ingredients, 5 ingredients in your pantry. Here's a recipe. Immunity, 900% increase. Here are immunity articles. Here's what you should worry about. Here's what you shouldn't worry about. Here are immunity recipes. Here are recipes you can make with your kids, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, what we did was we launched weekly webinars with nutrition experts. So every Friday evening on Facebook Live, Friday evening or Saturday evening, we started having these weekly webinars. And moms went berserk. They loved it so much. So, and the beauty about the internet is you're creating evergreen content. Moms can come back if they can't make the 5 p.m. appointment. They were coming back. So we were getting more views after the live session went over than during the live session, and we continued with it. And sure enough, we've been trying to get into mom communities for a year. Gurgaon moms, Bandra moms, so on and so forth. Very engaged communities, because in digital, what matters is not the numbers, but the quality of the audience, right? So we don't believe in buying numbers of audiences. And mom communities started contacting us. We want to host an Ask Nestlé webinar. Doctors started writing to us. We want to do a webinar on Ask Nestlé. And that for me is, when consumers, experts, moms come to you and say, make me a part of it, it tells me two things. One, the power of digital as a medium, right? And we really didn't spend that much money. And it is really a magnifier of good thoughts, good actions. And if you want to add value to a community, the community will repay you with love, right? The second thing it says was you've got to want to add value. So most marketers in digital fall prey to this. How many views did you get? How many retweets? How many engaged? It doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. Curate high quality content. And if you are adding value to the consumer, it will pay off. So I think these are the things we learned during lockdown. And in fact, on Ask Nestlé, just to give you a statistic, I think last year, whole year, we had 3.4 million visits. In less than 2 months of the lockdown, we had 2 more million visits. So we hit 5.5 million. Acceleration, and 1 million repeat visitors. 1 million parents came back again. For a brand, that's not spending a lot of money to buy, parents' time. So for me, I think the lockdown has proven to us that continue to add value. Don't erode your brand by misbehaving with the consumer. Respect them, tell them, abhi nahi hai stock. We are working very hard to get it to you. And keep them engaged and listen to them and figure out what they are really worried about and try and help them. That's really what my learning is. If no one can ever be prepared for a crisis, how do you teach it? How do you teach people to be prepared for one, right? But there's also a view, I think it was Mark Twain who said that, history seldom repeats itself, but it always rhymes. So the plague happened. There were 2 world wars. Maggie crisis happened in a corporate scenario. The SARS virus happened. So yes, there are historical sort of events that have happened that have disrupted. And, I do believe that the education content and curriculum we have is rather archaic. So I studied about 20-25 years ago and came out. And what I studied was exactly what I didn't do. In my work life, especially in marketing. Yes, it teaches you fundamentals, but you don't know how to apply it. In the same way, while I think, yes, I agree with you that the curriculum must include crisis management for all functions, operations, marketing, finance, IT. Look at how IT had to scale up during lockdown, right? They had to make sure everybody was connected, everybody's computers were working. Whoever thought about that? All IT did was, can you switch off your computer and switch it on again? And let's see if it works, right? So I definitely think that crisis management needs to be part of all curriculum in MBAs and colleges. But but how do you teach that is the question. So I already mentioned there are historical sort of situations that have happened, and then you teach it in a contemporary framework on how will you respond. But can you really teach that? So would you rather teach life skills that you can use in every scenario, no matter what, right? How can you make students more resilient? How can you make managers more empathetic, more courageous? How can you help them to look around the corners? You know, and in Stanford, my professors used to say you have to develop the competence to be in the balcony and dance on the dance floor at the same time. Right? These are the things that need to be taught rather than when SARS happens, what will you do? No. How will you, what are the resources that you have as a human, as a manager, as a family person, as a parent in these roles, as a society member to react and respond? I think that needs to be part of the curriculum. I think a lot about this. So, what has happened is that marketing has become a science. Fill in this format, look at this KPI. Oh, my YouTube video got X million views. People have lost the plot to say, I'm actually working with human beings. So either we reduce, we are nothing if our consumer doesn't love us. And you were mentioning the Maggie crisis, that's what happened. Whatever was happening, there were people weeping on social media because they missed their Maggie. There were actually people weeping. And that is the power of consumers. And I feel that we as marketers are forgetting that. So either we are reducing them to statistics, like I said, 900% increase in immunity. But what's behind that number? It's women worried about their children. Or we reduce it to a very, very sanitized pen picture. Oh, Rita is a 42-year-old mom. She lives in Bombay. She worries about her children, but she wants to have a job because she left it when she had her babies. I mean, a consumer is not an average pen picture. A consumer is not a statistic. So I feel that we are missing out the human aspect. We are forgetting that we are marketing to humans like ourselves with hopes, dreams, and desires. And I think we need to bring that sensibility into every young marketer that we are training. I think they are. For a long time, I didn't believe it, right? And I have never played the woman card at work. And I've frankly been really oblivious to it. But lately, I have really started believing and feeling that there is a difference. So I think there are 2-3 things that happen. I'm sure you've read this. There is a whole body of social research which says that for women, competence and likability are inversely proportionate, inversely related. But for men, they are positively, directly correlated. So if and that study actually says you as a woman need to smile more. So it will increase your likability. So you look competent, you say competent things, but if you do that with a smile, you should be able to balance it. So there are unconscious cultural nuances which reflect how women leaders are perceived versus male leaders. So I think as a female leader, the earlier on we realize it, the better it will be. I think the second one is that a woman leader is judged more harshly than a male leader. And you see that in the US, you see that in India, but there will be 2 leaders, a woman leader and a male leader. Male leaders have a litany of offenses, of hate speech, of nasty mails. Nothing is done. There are, A woman leader, you see it and she's immediately fired. So I feel that the bar of quote unquote bad behavior from women leaders is way lower. And maybe it comes down to culture again, where women are supposed to be nurturers. But if there is even a speck of behavior that is not perceived to be nurturing, they are sort of, punished much more than men are. So I think it does happen. It does happen. So I think the organizations are doing as much as they can. All progressive organizations talk about D&I. They have affirmative quotas for women, for more diverse communities. I mean, what else can an organization do? Their training. I think they can make their training more real instead of an online training where you have to click multiple choice questions to prove you have heard what they were saying. But I think the responsibility lies with women. So it's very, very easy to blame others. But knowing that this is the scenario that we are dealing with, how can I work better, different, and how can I use my strengths uniquely to excel? And I oftentimes think not just women, but even men. So young men, they hold themselves back. So all of us, there is a constant brain chatter going on in our minds, and we allow that to overtake performance. Either it's self-limiting beliefs, or it's negative self-talk, or saying, "ये तो company ऐसी है, यहाँ कुछ नहीं होगा," right? But we have the power to change our own perception and change our own behaviors, to work within that space and see what is the maximum impact we can make. And it really starts with stopping a victim and blame culture. It's very easy to say, "Oh, but I'm a woman," or "I don't know how to speak English, I come from a small town." And of course, you can't get over being a woman. Learn English. Right? So what is within your control that you can change it, and focus and perform, right? Because performance, no one can argue with. No one can argue against performance. And fine, if consistent performance, because a star is a star in every company. A star is a star in Gorakhpur, Goregaon, and I don't know, Gurgaon, right? so if you're a star, be a star, regardless of where you are. So, I think a mentor is very important. A mentor or a coach is very, very important to have. And what does a mentor do? A mentor shares his or her experiences with you and guides you how to behave in a certain situation. That's all, right? Because this mentor arguably has been there or has enough of pattern recognition. Because hopefully this mentor is older and wiser. So pick your mentors carefully. Don't pick people who will mirror you and echo your negative self-talk. So a mentor is someone who will push you to see the truth, the objective reality, and respond in the right way. But I think it's even more important for women to have advocates. Because what happens is, yes, you will have a mentor, you will do your own thing. But when there is a conversation happening on the table on who to promote next, or who is going to be in charge of X, Y, and Z, sometimes habit and unconscious bias may take root. And it's a psychological reality that we pick people who are like us, right? At that table, a woman needs an advocate to create luck for her. right? Now, if your mentor is also an advocate, you're a lucky person. If not, try and build one, right? What I personally do is I have a personal advisory council, and they all happen to be women. So they are women who are older than I am, who are wiser than I am, who are really candid with me. And if I'm being a victim or blaming the world but myself, they correct me immediately, and they tell me to grow up, wise up, and go and do the right thing. So that also helps. So as women are rising in their career, start building a personal advisory council, right, outside of work. At work, try and see who will advocate for you. I think the first is it's all up to me. It has to be about me myself, right? So if something is going wrong, something's not happening, I as a leader am ultimately accountable. So it has to be something I've not said right or done right or read the situation right. It has to be something that I need to introspect about. So if I can change my perspective, learn better, learn more, do the right thing, I think things will change. So it's like Mahatma Gandhi said, if be the change you want to be. That's really what I'm saying. I think the second one is that a lot of times we as leaders forget that we are humans. So the same tenet of consumer is a human. So we start behaving like our designations. And we start becoming embroiled in the ego, oh, this is my designation, this is my, this is what I do, I have a budget. And we forget that we are humans and the people we are dealing with are humans. So, and as we get older, we start expecting people to treat us with that respect and hierarchy and say, ma'am, 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 and we get swayed by that. But I think it's very important to be in touch with where you came from, the fact that you're human, and the fact that you're dealing with people who are human, not designations, right? So that's really it. I mean, of course, then all of the other things, have a vision, blah, 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 but all that is done. But these two tenets, be human, remember you're dealing with humans, and first look within. What is it that I didn't do, and what is it that I can improve on? So, I mean, no one is perfect. Nobody is complete, right? We are all paintings in progress. What else can I do? And I think the third is learn when to walk away. Right? Because when your first two tenets are be human and it's up to me, but till when will it be up to me? Right? When do you say, when do I walk away? When? So that's what it is, I think. Advice that is not given enough to people is be yourself. But I don't mean it in the way of what's and all, be yourself, but constantly be a painting in progress. Because if a youngster who's 22-year-old and is just joining the corporate sector is told, be yourself. मैं तो ऐसा ही हूँ, I तो don't write presentations, या मैं तो ऐसी हूँ, I तो so giving feedback on be yourself, but in the right context, be your best self, probably, unlock your own potential.